Silence is a double-edged sword, both a shield and a shackle. It can offer refuge in moments of contemplation, allowing wisdom to settle in the depths of the mind. But left unchecked, silence can morph into a prison, a silent surrender to injustice, fear, or complacency. The ancient Stoics understood this paradox well. They revered silence as a path to self-mastery, yet they never mistook muteness for virtue when speech was necessary. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, filled his meditations with reflections on the weight of words. Seneca, a statesman and thinker, warned against the perils of unspoken truths. Epictetus, a former slave turned sage, taught that a caged voice often meant a caged soul. They knew that words, when wielded with courage and intent, have the power to carve destinies, challenge tyranny, and ignite revolutions. Imagine the whistleblower who refuses to stay quiet in the face of corruption, the survivor who speaks out against oppression, the friend who chooses honesty over comfortable silence. In these moments, words become more than sound. They become defiance, redemption, and change. So when does silence liberate and when does it enslave? When does it protect wisdom and when does it betray justice? Today we explore 5 crucial moments when silence becomes a chain, and speaking out becomes not just a choice but a duty. But before we dive into these profound lessons, take a moment to support our journey together. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell icon on our YouTube channel, Quotes and Relax 95. By subscribing, you ensure you never miss the insights that can transform your life. Deep dives into Stoicism, self-improvement, and timeless wisdom to help you cultivate resilience, clarity, and purpose. Each video is crafted to guide you toward a more peaceful, focused existence, anchored in the philosophy of those who mastered the art of living. Ready? Let's begin. Number 1. When injustice demands your voice. Injustice does not erupt in a sudden blaze. It festers in the shadows, nurtured by silence. It thrives in whispered excuses, in the uneasy glances of bystanders who convince themselves, "This is not my battle." But the Stoics rejected such cowardice. They understood that silence in the face of wrong is not neutrality, it is surrender. Seneca warned, "He who allows a crime enables it." A truth history has proven time and time again. Think of the greatest atrocities, tyrannies that swallowed nations, injustices that crushed the defenseless. They were not only the work of the wicked, but of those who stood by, watching, mute, unwilling to risk discomfort for the sake of righteousness. The Holocaust, apartheid, the suppression of voices under oppressive regimes, how many tragedies could have been softened, even prevented, if more had spoken up? Perhaps you witness cruelty in everyday life. A colleague bullied into silence, a child suffering abuse behind closed doors, a society inching toward oppression under the guise of order. Do you turn away, hoping someone else will bear the burden? Or do you rise not out of pride or fury, but because truth, if left unspoken, withers into oblivion? Tyranny flourishes when the brave hesitate. And so, in those moments when injustice stands before you, daring you to look away, remember, your words are not just sound. They are defiance, they are light in darkness. Speak, because silence is the tyrant's greatest weapon. Number 2. When your core is tested. What defines you when everything is stripped away? When the comforts you've clung to vanish? When the crowd turns against you? When the easy path tempts you to abandon what you believe? Principles are the anchors of the soul. Without them, you drift aimlessly, tossed by the shifting tides of opinion and convenience, like a ship with no sails at the mercy of the storm. Epictetus, a man who had known chains yet never allowed them to break his spirit, taught that adversity does not shatter character, it reveals it. But how many falter when tested? It is easy to hold to your beliefs in solitude, but what happens when the world scoffs at your discipline? When your commitment to truth, honor, or restraint is met with laughter, rejection, or scorn? Picture the athlete who refuses to cheat despite watching others prosper from deception. The friend who won't betray their values for social approval. The whistleblower who risks career and comfort to expose corruption. Each stands at a crossroads. Conform or remain steadfast. The temptation to yield is great, to laugh along, to nod in silent agreement, to tell yourself that bending just this once isn't really a betrayal. But every compromise chips away at something deeper, your integrity, your sense of self. A Stoic does not wield words as weapons to cut others down. They use them as shields to protect the soul. So when the pressure mounts, when the world tries to mold you into something lesser, speak not to argue, not to convince, but to affirm, I know who I am. Number 3, when lies rule the room. Lies do not arrive with a trumpet's blast. They seep in quietly, like a slow poison tainting the well. They twist reality, manipulate the unsuspecting, and thrive where truth remains unspoken. And when falsehoods go unchallenged, they do more than deceive. They reshape the world itself. Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, understood this danger. He taught that truth is not always a gentle whisper. Sometimes it must be a sword, cutting through illusion to reveal what is real. But how often do we hesitate to wield it? Imagine sitting in a room where deception flows freely, where history is rewritten, where facts bend to fit an agenda, where slander corrodes reputations. A workplace where a hard-working colleague is falsely blamed, a political arena where misinformation stirs chaos, a conversation where a friend is subtly manipulated by half-truths. Do you remain silent, telling yourself it's not worth the trouble? Or do you stand not in anger, not to shame, but to restore clarity? Letting lies rule is not an act of peace, it is an act of surrender. Yet truth, when spoken without wisdom, can wound rather than heal. A Stoic does not lash out in rage, but speaks with reason, firm, measured, unwavering. Not to humiliate, but to illuminate, not to overpower, but to guide. In a world where deception darkens minds, your voice can be the light that cuts through the fog, leading others back to what is real. Will you let the lie reign, or will you dare to speak? Number 4, when loved ones stumble. Stoicism is not about indifference. It is not about crossing your arms and watching as those you love spiral into darkness, convincing yourself that their choices are theirs alone. True Stoicism demands courage, the courage to care, even when your words may not be welcomed. When someone you love is drowning in vice, despair, or self-destruction, silence is not wisdom, it is surrender. Seneca, who understood suffering and loss firsthand, wrote, "Even survival is courage." But what about the courage to help another survive? Imagine watching a friend succumb to addiction, their laughter growing hollow, their eyes losing their light. A sibling crumbling under the weight of depression, withdrawing further with each passing day. A partner who once burned with ambition, now numbing themselves with distractions, avoiding the truth of their unhappiness. Do you tell yourself it's not your place to interfere? Do you soften your words to avoid discomfort? Or do you stand firm, knowing that honesty, though painful, may be the only lifeline they have left? Yes, words can bruise. A hard truth may sting, but the wound of apathy cuts far deeper. To care is not to judge. To intervene is not to control. You cannot force change, nor can you walk the path of healing for them. But you can refuse to be complicit in their downfall. You can be the steady presence that does not look away, does not enable, does not abandon. Sometimes love is not gentle, it is resolute. And sometimes the greatest act of love is the refusal to stay silent. Number 5. When fear gags your truth. Fear is a cunning adversary. It does not shout, it whispers. Stay quiet. Blend in. Don't make waves. It drapes itself over your shoulders like a heavy cloak, convincing you that silence is safety, that conformity is survival. But the Stoics challenge this illusion. They ask a question far more daunting than what if I speak and suffer? They ask, what if I stay silent and regret it? Memento mori. Remember death. A life lived in fear is a life half-lived. When the final moment comes, will you grieve the words you never said? The truths you buried out of fear of judgment? The dreams you let wither because they required standing apart? Every unspoken thought festers. Every withheld truth turns into regret. And though speaking your mind may cost you approval, is that not a small price for authenticity? Think of the artist who hides their work, afraid it won't be understood. The employee who sees corruption, but swallows the truth to keep their job. The friend who withholds their feelings, only to lose the connection they feared to jeopardize. Yes, speaking up invites risk, discomfort, rejection, isolation. But Epictetus reminds us, happiness begins where approval ends. What is the value of acceptance if it demands self-betrayal? Fear only has power if you yield to it. The moment you defy it, it shrinks. So the question is not, can you afford to speak, but rather, can you afford to stay silent? The Stoics resolve. A Stoic does not waste words. They do not speak to fill silences or to seek approval. Their words are arrows, sharp, deliberate, and aimed with purpose. But even the archer knows, when the moment demands it, the arrow must fly. When silence becomes a cage, when withholding your truth feels like swallowing a stone, that is when you must speak. Not for victory, not for applause, but for integrity. The world is drowning in noise, meaningless chatter, half-truths, distractions, masquerading as wisdom. But amid this clamor, something vital is missing. Truth, courage, the rare voice that does not seek to impress, but to illuminate. When deception is the currency, honesty is an act of defiance. When the herd moves blindly, standing still is an act of rebellion. And one day you will find yourself at a crossroads. Swallow your voice or let it roar. Imagine that moment. Perhaps it will come in a boardroom where speaking the truth may cost you your job. Perhaps it will be at a family gathering where honesty risks discomfort. Or maybe it will be in the quiet of your own mind, where the hardest battle of all takes place, the battle between fear and authenticity. Choose as the Stoics did, undaunted, unyielding, free. Your words, when spoken with courage, may bend the world toward truth. But if you let fear silence you, it is not the world that will break, it is you.